welcome to part 3 of DROD Architecture stream. In the last part I made a level based around explosives, and I'm not very happy with the results because pretty much all the rooms ended up being sketches that will need a lot of work to make them into the final product, but at least I do have these sketches down. Before I go on to the next level, I want to say a few things that I've thought during the break about the rooms I've made. So one idea I had for this room was because you need to alter the Fagundo's relative positions, one tool I could add is a pushing weapon. So then I thought, well, if you have that, that means 3 of the rooms in this level have weapons. This has the staff to stun the brain, but I could make that a spear so you can stun the brain and kill it with the same weapon. This, of course, has the pickaxe to attack the briar. One thing about this is that this room isn't very interesting at the moment because it's just about trimming the briar. It's not really about explosives at all. But one thing that I could one thing that I could do is make it so you have to get into this to, for example, hit an orb. In fact, I will do that now, so that I remember for later. So you've got to hit an orb to activate a fire trap to kill an evil eye. I think the briar won't do that because briar would destroy orbs without activating them. Let me just check. Yeah, that's right. So as I was saying, 3 of the rooms on this level now have weapons. It would be interesting to make that a kind of secondary theme for the whole level. So the bomb maze, well, an obvious thing I could do is simply give either a spear or a pickaxe, and that completely changes how a bomb maze works, because there are some moves you can make safely with those weapons that you couldn't make with the sword. Of course, I'd have to take out the entire bomb maze and redesign it from scratch around the player having one of those weapons. But it would then be an interesting room that doesn't appear in Journey to Rooted Hold. So that makes me a lot happier about that room. This one, I'm not sure what I want to do with. I don't think adding an alternative weapon would necessarily be the thing. And this corridor can easily go the other way to add an extra room on this side, which I won't build now, but if I'm going to make a level based around explosives and alternative weapons, then obviously there must be a caber room. Right, was there anything I wanted to say about the shallow water level? So I think I had thought of something while I was thinking about these rooms during the break, but now I can't remember what it was. No, I can't remember at all, so I'll just have a check at the chat. Nothing's happening. And I'll start the next level. So I'm again going to roll a die against the same list of level concepts, this time because explosives and shallow water have been used up. A 3 will mean speed potions, a 6 will mean trapdoors. And it's a 3. Well, I know someone who will be very happy. Speed potions. Oh, what room style does speed potions suggest? I don't know. I'm going to break out my 12-sided die. Time for a run. 4. The fourth of the default styles is Caldera. Chaka says, come on trapdoors. I'm not sure what that's in reference to. Is it? Oh, right. Instead of that orb, he wants me to make a trapdoor. Good. Trapdoor will... So forget the fire trap. The trapdoor will release a briar that kills that eye. Okay, thank you, Chaco. And DROD Central says you could make a bomb maze that could be completed with 2 different weapons and make a challenge to solve it both ways. That is very true. And another thing I didn't mention is that the dagger also completely changes what you can and can't do in a bomb maze, but it changes it in a way that makes it much harder. So that would be a completely different room. I'm not sure I want to do that. But dagger and explosives is an interesting combination because you cannot move powder kegs when you have a dagger. So one thing I might do for the finished hold, I might make this a 3x3 level and see if I can do something with the dagger in one of the remaining 2 rooms. So not all levels necessarily have to have the same size. It would be interesting if I could expand each of them to 3x3, but we'll see. Oh, right. Chaco was just saying he hoped trapdoors came up for the roll. And yes, well, okay. I'll have to be more specific with what I'm referring to, since Nuntar might only read a message like 10 minutes after I'm writing it. Yes. So what he was actually saying is that you can't get to this without pressing the pressure plate. So I could have the pressure plate like there. Does that answer your objection? I think it does. So let's see what we can do with speed potions. So since we're in the Caldera room style, that suggests hot tiles and fire traps. Now both of those have an interesting interaction with speed potions because fire traps will only activate at the end of the turn, so you can step onto one without being killed when you have the speed potion, even if you don't have something to turn it off. So like I can have a maze through the fire traps like that, for example. That's just, yeah, that's an example. Again, as I've said in both the previous videos, maze layouts are really difficult to to do at speed, because I'd want to tweak them and make every little corner kind of as interesting as possible. And provide red herrings, false paths. At the moment, this isn't very interesting in terms of linchpins. It just kind of illustrates that rule. But to make it interesting, you could, for example, have a staff. And what happens with powder kegs? Oh, I need to put them on this end for testing. But I would think that because you can push the powder keg on both half turns, it will only, yeah, you can totally get the powder keg there. But not to there, because that would require this square to be vacant, or this. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Okay, so the idea is that if I have more vacant tiles, actually, why not just start from here with the powder keg and the staff? So if I have more vacant tiles in the fire trap maze, then it should be possible to move it further. Like so. Getting it from there to there would be hard, though. In fact, is there anywhere? Well, yes, if B-throw was here and moved like that. Sorry. So what I'm saying is that with this setup, it's possible to move the powder keg from here to here by doing that. Of course, the disadvantage is that with the extra floor tiles, you don't need to do that because there are other ways to move the keg to here. But that's just an illustration for the moment of some different ways it could be possible to move the keg through the maze. So this is something for me to do off camera, kind of work out the details of the empty spaces so that, number one, moving the keg is interesting, and number two, there are red herrings and false paths that don't lead anywhere. Some people in the chat are saying that the stream seems to freeze when I go to testing, and that might be because of the fire traps. Does it also happen in an empty room like this? I mean, I'm not going to be spending any much longer testing the fire trap room. Because working out the details of the maze is something I'll have to do off camera. For now, all I'm going to do is kind of add a reason why you need the powder keg to be here at all. and obviously it will help you blow up that bomb. Okay, so we've got our fire traps. So Chaco's been feeding me several ideas for what you can do with speed potions, and one of them is that you can step off a pressure plate. Without it going off. So I could have some monster, let's just say an evil eye, that starts on the plate, and when you kill it, you can only kill it from there, and that's going to trigger another evil eye. No, that's not in the path. Oh right, yeah, of course, because the evil eyes have the interaction with the speed potion that you can avoid triggering them if you don't stand in their path for 2 turns. And that's really interesting, and I'll use that in a second. But for this one, I'm going to enforce that you stand in its. Oh, that's. Yeah, Chaco keeps throwing ideas for interactions at me, but I can only do one room at a time. Obstacle, right. Obstacles, I think, this is kind of weird, but they don't hold down pressure plates. So anyway, the point is that to kill this eye, you have to release that one, and that's going to trigger a brained horde coming at you from all sides of the room. Put in a brain that you have to kill last. Have this pressure plate open various doors. And throw in a few roaches and what have you. That's too many. Some snakes could also be interesting. Come on. But the thing is that the kind of last thing to reach you would be a golem, and that lets you hold down this plate at the end so you can exit the room. And obviously, because this is a horde room, I'd have more monsters than that because you can kill things more easily when you have the speed potion. So a few things like that. And this is just wildly guessing at the moment, but let's just go with that for now and see how it turns out. Oh right, but this eye can't see you anymore. Well, that was silly of me. And because it's brained, it doesn't step on that plate anymore. That's a nice technique for killing a rattlesnake when you have a speed potion. Well, there we are. Not only is the room possible, it was pretty fun. It was very nicely on the borderline between trivial and too frustrating. People are saying that my stream is having problems when I'm testing the room. But anyway, one thing that I thought about doing with this idea is having some of the monsters, not all released at once, but released by other evil eyes, and use the speed potion eye interaction to let you choose when to release them. And, you know, I could play around with that and see if it works, how well it works in the room concept. But anyway, for now, I've actually made a playable room, so that's an improvement for everything I did on the previous level. I'm just going to take a short break. Okay, I'm back. So we've got 2 rooms down for speed potions. I'd like to try to get 2 more before calling it a day. We've done fire traps. The other kind of obvious one is hot tiles. And whoops. So the thing about speed potions and hot tiles is that you can turn once when you're on them. So you are still restricted to an extent, but you can turn to face any direction. The question is, how do we want to use that in a puzzle? Well, it doesn't have to be a puzzle. It could just be a horde room like the previous one I made. But anyway, I do want to make a room built around that concept. Well, it could just be another horde room with mud babies. That would be quite easy to do, but I want to see if I can think of something more interesting. So one thing, and this was kind of done in the recent blind race hold, is that you can have a mimic. And yeah. And the turning thing applies to the mimic as well. Also, I can have Ormites. Ormites would allow the mimic to change its facing direction without allowing the player to do so, because I could have an evil eye that will wake up if the mimic hits the Ormites. Sorry, if the player stands on the Ormites. And again, just put a door that you don't want to be closed. Chaco has some interesting ideas for this room. I'm just having a look. Oh, add extra potions and hallways to lock you into a certain direction, he says. So the idea would be something like that. If I do that and then put another speed potion there to cancel out the effect, that would mean that when you're in this portion of the room, you can only face the particular direction you've chosen. That's quite right. And I might do something like that for one of the corner rooms. If I do indeed end up expanding this to 9 rooms per level. But for now I just want to go with what I've thought of, which is the Mimic and Ormites to change his facing direction. And of course the point of that will be that you have some tar stuff that you have to double stab. And when you do that, the evil eye will be blocked off. Sorry, when you've destroyed all tar stuff in the room, the evil eye can be killed without blocking your exit. Oh, the player can stand on the Ormites and walk off without waking the eye. That's true. You know, does that matter? Because either way, it's still a puzzle about altering your relative facing direction, so you can multi-stab different tar and gel blobs. So I'm okay with that. Also, one thing to note is you can do a thing with speed potions where you can break up a gel blob that's like that without being massacred by the babies. That's kind of not immediately relevant in this room, but that's just something to note. Is this room okay as it is? It's kind of a bit bland and minimal, but it is a room about doing things with a mimic. Oh, well, one thing is you'll have to alter your positions as well as your direction. And that can be a little hard. But you do get those extra movement turns because of the speed potion, so that is interesting in itself. Like so. Oh, Beefro, stop attacking your mimic. Yeah, I like that idea, the way you can get extra leverage even though you're on hot tiles. That's turned into quite an interesting room concept that I hadn't thought about before. Okay, that's not a bad room. Okay, so what do we want to do for the fourth room for this level? So I think I'd like to do something that's that Chucko has brought up several times, which is that taking another speed potion will cancel the effect, so you can have a situation where you have to think about whether you want to be speedy or unspeedy for certain sections of the room. Something like that. Obviously all these force arrows are either going to get turned off at the end, or I could just have a green door that lets you get back through the room. Jeff says that constructs on top of ice on shallow water is pretty interesting. I'm not sure if that's meant to be a suggestion for a room or... I don't know. Anyway, the interesting thing about this, of course, is you can choose whether or not to take the potion at the beginning, but then once you're in the main part of the level... Oh, I know. What we need is... kind of a setup like that, but as soon as you hit this in fact, then we don't need this at all. As soon as you hit this, a lemming will walk over 4 arrow rotators and then die, because this is a cruel game where lemmings have to die. I don't have access to lemmings in this hold yet. I'd have to copy them in from another hold, so I'm not going to place it right now. So within each of these let's just see if that works as intended. So you come around here, you have to do these sections in this order. If you start by taking the northern route, obviously you could start by taking the southern route. Then when you get here, these arrows will all turn around, so you can only go outwards. You can't go back. So yeah, I think that I also have to add arrows here and here. So this is kind of a complicated setup, but what I'm trying to prevent is the player taking both speed potions in one area so that it doesn't have any effect before moving on. So then, obviously, within each area there would be kind of an enclosure type thingy with some roaches in it, and you have to step on a pressure plate in the middle that lets both of them out, and you have to decide which half is you have to decide which rooms need the speed potion and which ones are possible without. What are you doing? So for this one I've just made, obviously you need the speed potion, but for the final version of the room I tried to make them a bit less obvious. So I'm not going to go into the minute details now of the shapes and sizes of all the enclosures in each section. That's not interesting to do on stream, and I'm getting close to the limit I set myself of 1 hour for each level. So Chaka has some different suggestions for how I could hit the arrow rotators. Okay, I think I'm going to call it a day there. I've had fun. I've done fairly well. Over the 3 levels, I've sketched out 13 puzzle rooms. Some of them, like this one, are more than sketches. They're fully playable rooms, but I would still prefer to work on them for, well, if nothing else, to polish up the aesthetics, because it looks very ugly. But definitely all of these can easily be turned into rooms. I don't know how long it's going to take me to make this into even a first draft hold that I can publish in Architecture, but for what I've done, I'm pleased with having made all that within 3 hours. So thank you very much for watching, everyone. And I don't know, I might do another one of these at another date. It's been quite an adventure, but it's also been fun. So thank you, everyone, and goodbye.